Well, it's no secret the Cowboys are in the market for a running back after parting ways with Ezekiel Elliott earlier this offseason. Now they have made some moves. They brought in Ronald Jones, but will he be that perfect complement to Tony Pollard and that 1-2 punch we all have become to know and love? This is Building the Board. I'm Haley Sutton, and to talk about this running back position and all of the decisions that this front office has to make, we're going to bring in Patrick No-C Walker. Patrick, this running back position group is very interesting because you have a Tony Pollard coming off of an injury, but is very clearly the running back one. And then you've got a little bit of shuffling underneath. It sounds like it's an interesting topic for the front office to address going into this draft.
Absolutely. You talk about the addition of Ronald Jones on the heels of releasing Ezekiel Elliott. And with Ronald Jones, you get a two-time Super Bowl winning veteran who's definitively going to be the complement for Tony Pollard unless the Cowboys decide that they can't pass up on a talent at number 26, maybe a little bit higher. Maybe they trade down a little bit lower to get that position, but we'll see. It gets more interesting behind Ronald Jones because they also re-signed Rico Dowdle, a team favorite, on a one-year deal. A lot of people thought Malik Davis, standout rookie out of Florida last season, showed some flash. Maybe he would get the nod at RB2, RB3. Turns out he's going to have to battle Dowdle again in training camp for the RB3 position.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting position with a lot on the line working in, especially with Mike McCarthy taking over play calling this season. He's told us several times that he's committed to the run game, but we'll see how committed he is. Now let's talk about this draft class, though, because I feel like if there's any position in this draft where you can kind of close your eyes and pick a guy, the running back class is it.
Stop me if you've heard this before. Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson is the consensus top running back in this year's class. I don't know that he'll make it out of the top 10 or top 15, but the Cowboys will have eyes on Bijan Robinson. If he gets to around 19 or 20, maybe they get on the phone and start trying to make a deal. But there are other players in this class as well. You talk about Zach Charbonnet out of UCLA, Devon Achane out of Texas A&M, Jahmyr Gibbs. There are a lot of players atop this running back position in this draft, and the Cowboys are going to be very interested in all of them.
It'll be interesting to see which direction they go, but to give us a better look at which one of those running backs will fit here in this Cowboys locker room, we're going to bring in our guy, Kyle Yeomans, host of the Draft Show, to break down some of these running backs.
Yeah, thank you very much, Haley and Patrick. Let's talk about a couple of the names that you guys just mentioned at the running back position. Bijan Robinson from Texas and Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama. These are the two first-round graded running backs on my board and probably two of the first-round graded running backs in every board across the NFL, especially this guy right here, Bijan Robinson. Patrick mentioned it. If he slips past 15, 16, 17, the Cowboys might even try and get on the phone and move up a little bit because he's that good of a player, maybe a top 10 prospect in this draft, but it's really far-fetched to think even he could fall to 26 with that positional value. But let's see how he wins. You got that 3,400 yards. Look at the yards per carry. That's not a typo. 8.2 yards per carry. Are you kidding me? And he had 33 touchdowns, 20 of those coming in his final season at Texas. He wins in a couple of different ways. His size, his speed, and his vision. Right here, he takes this handoff. He's coming off the left side of Hudson Card at quarterback. And as soon as he takes his handoff, look at him break through the hole. Right up there, home run ability, boom. Tiptoeing the sideline, agility, bang. You got all of this from Bijan Robinson, and then you take it to the next level. He does it against the best competition. This is against Alabama at Memorial Stadium down in Austin. Look at this. Straight off the sweep, boom. Hits the corner, makes a nice cut back to the inside. And he is able to bound off of a couple of Alabama defenders before he's pushed out of bounds. But what can he do as a receiver? In this day and age of the NFL, you have to be able to catch the football out of the backfield. Guess what? He does that as well. Same game against Alabama. He's just running a straight vert. Look at this on the right sideline. He has the receiving ability to turn and contour his body back to the football, make the grab, and then continue on like nothing had ever happened. He has a phenomenal sense of awareness, sense of vision, and then his athleticism is absolutely off the charts. So what about Jahmyr Gibbs, another first-round graded running back out of Alabama? He played in that same game, of course. We're going to see a couple highlights from that. These are mostly his numbers from Alabama, but he played 3 seasons with Georgia Tech before transferring and playing for the Crimson Tide. So let's take a look at what Jahmyr Gibbs does. He's very similar to Bijan in the awareness and the vision, but he's more shifty. He's more agile. He ran a 4.36 40 at the NFL Combine, so he's got the speed as well, but he's not as built and big as a Bijan Robinson. Here he is as a receiver, and then also the ability to slip out of a tackle. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's gone. 5, 6, 7 tacklers is what it took to take down Jahmyr Gibbs along the way against Vanderbilt. Then you go up against Arkansas. I mentioned the home run ability from Bijan Robinson. Here it is from Gibbs. Not once on this nice cutback, waits for the blocks to develop, and then he's straight up the right numbers. He's up the sideline, and he's gone. But that was just one of the home run ability threats that he can have. What if he went the other way? This is not a replay. We didn't flip the video here. This is the same game. And he just does the same thing on the left side, and he takes it to the house that way as well. I mean, you talk about home run ability, speed, size, athleticism. Both Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson bring that to the table, and they are the top echelon of a really good running back class that you guys outlined so eloquently earlier. This is a good class, and it always takes a top-heavy part of that class. Those are the two guys that are the top-heavy part.
Yeah, it's interesting, too. You mentioned the versatility of these guys because in this day and age with the running back, you have to be much more of a hybrid player. My question to you guys is, out of these two, since you specified them, is there one that maybe fits better with this Cowboys locker room, or is it just if they're available, you got to get them?
I think it's got to be Bijan that's the best fit because he checks all those boxes. I mentioned the size, the speed, the athleticism, but also pass protection as well because losing Ezekiel Elliott, you lose an upper echelon pass protector in your offense as well to be able to protect Dak Prescott when he's dropping back. You have an extra blocker in there. Bijan's a better pass pro ready running back right now in the NFL, but Jahmyr Gibbs isn't bad in that regard either, which is why you do give him such a big grade. But I think if you're talking about specific fit, Bijan also brings a change up to Tony Pollard. Jahmyr Gibbs is very comparable to Pollard, maybe even higher rated at what Pollard did, at least when Pollard was coming out of Memphis. So I think if you want to throw a little bit of a change-up, it's Bijan, of course.
I think hands down, if Bijan Robinson is there at 26 or even close to it, you're going to have to make
if this is the card, I'm running it
you're
to
going to
Kansas
have to
City
make
myself.
that call, Usain Bolt style.
Oh, yeah.
Run that all the way there. But to answer your question, Haley, I think the answer is yes. Whichever one has a fit is whichever one's available. It's going to be interesting because the Cowboys are going to have to decide how they want to utilize Tony Pollard. Now that he's going to be the feature back, do they understand that it's going to be a bit more punishing for him? He's going to be tasked potentially with taking the damage up the A and B gaps, and if so, you're going to need that complementary back such as Jahmyr Gibbs or somebody like a Devon Achane or something like that. But if you're looking for Tony Pollard to remain what he is, you're going to need a more physical guy. Obviously, Bijan being the total package, he provides you that, but then so does some of those bigger backs like Zach Charbonnet, Tank Bigsby out of Auburn. So it'll be interesting to see now that Tony Pollard is the feature back, what does that mean for him going forward?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I'm glad you brought up some other names we need to talk about because in the ideal world, right, I doubt that these two guys are available at that 26 spot. So if you're that front office, who else are you looking at to kind of fill that same role?
Well, we've known that the Cowboys worked out Tyjae Spears, who's another change-up sort of running back, smaller player out of Tulane. But you talk about next-level shiftiness and agility. Oh, my goodness. He's like a bolt of lightning in the backfield, and he played his last collegiate football game at AT&T Stadium in the Cotton Bowl against USC, where he had 200 yards and was the offensive MVP. I would look at somebody like that. Maybe not Spears specifically, but he's a third-round prospect. Third, fourth round. It's a hotbed for these guys. Even Roschon Johnson out of Texas is another bigger-bodied running back who was the backup to Bijan. The only reason he was the backup is because Bijan was the one in front of him. He was a starting Power 5 running back in any other system in the entire collegiate football landscape. So maybe you go get a guy like Roschon Johnson. He is coming off of an injury, so maybe he even slips to like the 5th round, and you could get an extra value there. So for the most part, there are running backs available. I even wrote down, you mentioned Tank Bigsby. Zach Evans from Ole Miss is another super athletic player. Grew up and played his high school ball down in Houston, so he's known to be around the Texas area, played some games at AT&T Stadium as well. So I really like this running back class, top to bottom. There's options there, even if the Cowboys don't end up with Robinson or Gibbs.
And absolutely, I'm going to continue to draw a circle around Achane, potentially as a third-round pick, because he also gives the Cowboys health insurance against a potential injury to KaVontae Turpin. Sure. Now, keep in mind the amount of traction that KaVontae Turpin put on his wheels last season, coming off of that MVP season with the USFL, went right into training camp with the Dallas Cowboys, and was still able to provide a Pro Bowl caliber year, and literally a Pro Bowl year for this team. But you don't know just yet what's going to happen in the long term as far as return game. So what you don't want to do is put yourself in a position where all of your eggs are in the basket of KaVontae Turpin, because we know he's an electric guy. But should he go down 1 or 2 games, where does that leave you? A guy like Achane answers that question. Yeah.
A lot of options to pick at that running back spot. You mentioned Tyjae Spears. I got to meet him at the Combine, and I asked him about playing at AT&T Stadium in that Cotton Bowl game, and he said, Man, have you guys seen that place? It's awesome. He was so blown away with like the doors
Come on
opening
home,
automatically.
Tajay.
That's what I was going to say. Come on home.
Let's make it happen.
Poetic.
Obviously, so many options for this team to choose from. Guys, thanks so much for your insight. That'll do it for this edition of Building the Board. We will see you next time.